I criticized the government. I went to a protest. I shared the post online. Now the police are looking for me. I had to leave my country. Can I get asylum? If this is your story, you are not alone. Political persecution is one of the main reasons people flee their countries. In many regions, it is the leading cause behind asylum claims. In this video, we cover 24 countries, from Russia and China to Iran and Nicaragua. We look at the laws governments use to silence people. We show you real cases. And we explain how asylum claims, based on political opinion, are assessed by courts. If you are watching this because your government has targeted you for your political views, this video is for you. Political persecution happens in every region of the world. It happens in dictatorships. It happens in countries that call themselves democracies. And the numbers are growing. Freedom House, the organization that measures political freedom in every country, reports that global freedom has been declining year after year for almost 2 decades. Their latest data show that more countries have seen declines in freedom than improvements, continuing a long-term downward trend. Freedom House Plus E3. What does that mean for asylum seekers? It means more people are being arrested for their political views. More people are being tortured in detention. More people are forced to flee. In the United Kingdom alone, over 111,000 people claimed asylum in the year ending June 2025. Political opinion is one of the 5 grounds for refugee status under the Geneva Convention, and it is a very common ground for claims from countries like Russia, Iran, China, and Belarus. Our database contains 55 cases of political persecution across 24 countries. This is the single largest category in our case analysis. Today, we go through the key countries one by one. If you are from one of these countries and you have faced political persecution, our team of expert witnesses based in London prepares personal risk assessments for asylum cases. We work with immigration lawyers across the UK, US, Canada, and EU. If you need an expert witness report for your case, or if you are a lawyer looking for a country expert, you will find all the details in the link in the description below. Russia, a country where criticizing the war or the president can lead to years in prison, where going to a funeral of an opposition leader can be treated as extremism, where sharing an anti-war post online can put your family at risk. Russia uses a system of laws designed to silence any opposition. Let me explain the key ones. Article 207.3 of the Criminal Code. Offenses related to knowingly false information and discrediting the armed forces. This article was introduced in 2022 after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The penalty up to 15 years in prison in the most serious cases. People have been prosecuted for calling the war a war, for sharing anti-war content, even for peaceful symbolic protests. Article 282, incitement of hatred or enmity and humiliation of human dignity. In aggravated cases, it carries up to 6 years in prison. This provision has repeatedly been used in cases against activists and critics of the authorities, including for online speech, the Foreign Agent Law. Introduced in 2012 and expanded almost every year since, it now covers NGOs, media outlets, informal associations, and individuals. Hundreds of people and organizations have been labeled foreign agents, which leads to loss of income and jobs, heavy reporting burdens, and stigmatization. And the extremism laws. In 2021, the Russian government declared Alexei Navalny's organizations, including the Anti-Corruption Foundation, extremist. Anyone who supported these structures, donated to them, or shared their materials can be prosecuted under extremism provisions. Navalny's lawyers and many regional staffers have faced criminal cases and heavy sentences. Since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, at least hundreds of thousands, and by some estimates, over 1 million people, have left Russia to escape repression, mobilization, or both. According to the human rights group OVD Info, from February 2022 to early 2025, more than 20,000 people were detained in Russia for anti-war positions and actions. Russian authorities also increasingly use anti-extremism and anti-terrorism rhetoric against young people. Media and human rights reports describe over 150 teenagers prosecuted as terrorists or saboteurs since the start of the war. Russia operates a state-sponsored system of fear and punishment where dissent is erased. By now, hundreds of individuals and organizations are on the foreign agents list, and rights groups report dozens of people sent for forced psychiatric examinations or treatment in connection with anti-war. Let me tell you about one case. A young man from Russia, I will call him Dmitry. He was a supporter of Alexei Navalny. He attended anti-corruption rallies. He shared posts on social media criticizing the government. After the invasion of Ukraine, Dmitry went to an anti-war protest. He was detained, beaten, and released with a warning. 2 weeks later, police came to his home. A criminal case was opened under Article 207.3, discrediting the armed forces. His phone was confiscated. His employer was contacted. He lost his job. Dmitry left Russia. He came to the United Kingdom and claimed asylum on the grounds of political opinion. When our expert assessed this case, the conclusion was clear. Return to Russia would place this person at serious risk of imprisonment, torture, and persecution. The Russian state is the persecutor. Internal relocation is not a realistic option. The FSB and law enforcement agencies operate in every region of Russia. There is nowhere to hide from the state. Georgia, a country that once clearly signaled its wish to join the European Union. A country where people took to the streets to defend democracy. And a government that has responded with tear gas, beatings, and mass arrests. In recent years, the Georgian government has pushed a foreign influence law modeled on Russia's foreign agents legislation. The drafts would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as serving the interests of a foreign power, targeting civil society, independent media, and critics of the government. The law sparked huge protest and serious concern from the EU and international partners. The ruling party, Georgian Dream, has moved the country in an increasingly authoritarian direction. Opposition politicians are harassed, journalists are attacked. The European Union has warned that democratic backsliding and such legislation threaten Georgia's European integration path and could freeze progress towards membership. One of our cases involves a man from Georgia. I will call him Georgie. He was a member of an opposition party that supported European integration and anti-corruption reform. He received threats from people linked to the ruling party. He was followed. His family was threatened. Georgie came to the United Kingdom and claimed asylum. His case shows a clear pattern. Political opponents in Georgia can face direct retaliation from the state and from groups connected to it. Georgia is a small country, around 3.7 million people. When the ruling party controls key institutions, internal relocation inside Georgia does not necessarily provide safety for a known political activist. Iran, a country where the death penalty is used extensively, including against alleged political opponents, where women who defy compulsory veiling face beatings, imprisonment, and sometimes death. where Kurdish activists disappear into prisons and are never seen again. Iran has some of the most extreme laws against political opposition in the world. Moharebe, enmity against God. This charge can carry the death penalty and is used against protesters, activists, and anyone the authorities view as threatening the Islamic Republic. Article 500 of the Penal Code, often translated as propaganda against the state, can lead to imprisonment. And Article 6 and 10, conspiracy against national security, carries sentences of up to several years. These provisions are regularly used against political activists, journalists, and human rights defenders. In 2024, according to UN figures, Iran executed at least 975 people, the highest reported number since 2015. Many of these executions relate to drug offenses, but political and security-related charges are also used to justify death sentences. Political prisoners, including journalists and human rights defenders, are held in prisons such as Evin. The targeting of minorities, including Kurds, Baluchis, and others, continues. One of our cases involves a man from Iran. I will call him Kaveh. He is Kurdish. He was active in a political movement supporting Kurdish rights. The IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, came to his family home. They arrested his brother. They told his family that Kaveh would be next. Kaveh fled Iran. He claimed asylum in the United Kingdom. His case illustrates a common pattern. Kurdish political activists face double persecution in Iran, both for their ethnicity and for their political activity. Azerbaijan. Freedom House gives it a score of about 7 out of 100, placing it among the least free countries in the world. A country where opposition politicians are jailed on fabricated charges, including drugs, where journalists are arrested for doing their jobs, where torture in detention is documented by the United Nations. Article 283 of the Criminal Code, incitement of national, racial, or religious enmity, is used in cases against critics of the government. Article 234, drug possession, is widely reported by human rights groups as a pretext to arrest political activists with drugs allegedly planted by police. The UN and international organizations have raised concerns about the arrest of independent journalists and activists in Azerbaijan and called for respect for media freedoms and the release of those arbitrarily deprived of liberty. Freedom House. One of our cases involves a man from Azerbaijan. I will call him Eldar. He was a member of an opposition political party. He was arrested on fabricated drug charges. In detention, he was tortured. Suspension techniques were used. He was hung from bars. His family was threatened to force a confession. Eldar escaped Azerbaijan. He claimed asylum. His case is consistent with documented patterns of political persecution in Azerbaijan. China, the world's most powerful authoritarian state, a country where criticizing the Communist Party can mean years, even life, in prison, where surveillance technology tracks citizens online and offline, and where the government reaches beyond its borders to silence dissidents abroad. Article 105 of the Criminal Code, subversion of state power. In serious cases, it can be punished by life imprisonment. Article 111, espionage and stealing state secrets, also carries very heavy penalties. The National Security Law of 2015 gives the state broad powers to detain anyone it considers a threat. In Hong Kong, the National Security Law imposed in 2020 shattered the pro-democracy movement. Secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces all can be punished with up to life imprisonment. By now, more than 250-260 people have been arrested or charged under this law. In 2024, local legislation under Article 23 of the Basic Law further expanded the security framework, adding new offenses such as treason, sedition, and external interference. One case from our database involves a person from mainland China whose family became involved in litigation that challenged interests linked to the Communist Party. For such families, the party's legal and political reach can extend well beyond China's borders. Politically exposed individuals may face elevated risk even abroad. From Hong Kong, a woman I will call May. She was politically active in the pro-democracy movement. She feared persecution from the Chinese government, the Hong Kong authorities, and the police. She came to the United Kingdom and claimed asylum. China is one of the most active practitioners of transnational repression. Freedom House has documented that China targets dissidents in many countries around the world through surveillance, intimidation, and attempts at forced return. Pakistan, a country where the military wields enormous influence over politics, where a former prime minister is in prison, and where thousands of his supporters have been arrested. The Anti-Terrorism Act of 1997 is routinely used against political opponents and protesters. Section 124A of the Penal Code, sedition, criminalizes speech seen as bringing the government into hatred or contempt. Military intelligence services, including the ISI, operate with limited civilian oversight. In late 2025, the UN Human Rights Office raised alarm about constitutional amendments that could undermine judicial independence and weaken accountability for serious human rights violations. The UN warned that these changes risk subjugating the judiciary to political interference and executive control. UN experts stated that the amendments seriously undermine judicial independence and raise grave concerns about military accountability, cutting against the separation of powers and the rule of law. Our cases from Pakistan involve people targeted for their political party membership. Supporters of opposition parties face arrest, torture, and fabricated charges. Internal relocation depends on the nature and origin of the threat, but when powerful security agencies are involved, nowhere in Pakistan may be safe. Ethiopia, a country where your ethnicity and your politics are deeply intertwined, where Oromo activists are arrested under anti-terrorism laws, where entire families are punished for the political activities of one member. The anti-terrorism proclamation gives the Ethiopian government broad powers to arrest people it considers threats. This law has been used systematically against Oromo political figures and supporters of the Oromo Liberation Front. Our cases from Ethiopia involve people of Oromo ethnicity whose families suffered because of their political affiliations. Security forces target not just the activist, but the entire family. Political persecution is not limited to a few countries. Let me quickly go through more countries from our case database. Bangladesh. The Awami League government has used laws like the former Digital Security Act and the Anti-Terrorism Act to detain and prosecute opposition members. Supporters of Jamaat-e-Islami and the BNP have been systematically targeted, and protests have been met with lethal force. Nicaragua. The Ortega regime has been described by UN experts as committing crimes against humanity, including murder, imprisonment, and torture. Over 300 people were killed during the 2018 protests. The government has revoked the citizenship of many dissidents and critics. Colombia. Human rights defenders and social leaders are killed at rates of more than 200 per year in some recent years. Armed groups, including FARC dissident factions and others, target those who speak out, and impunity remains extremely high. Egypt. The government is estimated to hold tens of thousands of political prisoners, Many reports cite figures of around 60,000. The Muslim Brotherhood is designated as a terrorist organization. The 2013 protest law effectively criminalizes unauthorized public gatherings and is used to jail peaceful demonstrators. Uzbekistan, Article 159 of the Criminal Code, threatening the constitutional order, has been used to silence dissent for decades. Despite some reforms, independent media remain under pressure, and religious and political prisoners are still reported to be in detention. Vietnam, Article 117 of the Penal Code, propaganda against the state, carries sentences of up to 20 years. Article 118, disrupting security, carries up to 15 years. Political and religious persecution are closely intertwined. Turkey, Freedom House gives Turkey a freedom score in the low 30s out of 100 and classifies it as not free. Anti-terrorism laws, especially Article 3 and 14 of the Penal Code on membership in an armed organization, are used against Kurdish politicians, journalists, academics, and many others. After the 2016 coup attempt, over 150,000 people were removed from public sector jobs and tens of thousands, including more than 80,000, according to some estimates, were arrested or detained. Cameroon. Freedom House gives Cameroon a score of about 15 out of 100 and the status not free. The 2014 anti-terrorism law is used against Anglophone activists and protesters. Military operations in Anglophone regions have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. Freedom House scores the DRC at around 19 out of 100. Not free. Political opponents are arrested, demonstrations are restricted or banned, and the legal system is used to criminalize dissent. DEFLN +1, Eritrea. Eritrea has one of the lowest freedom scores in the world, around 3 out of 100, and is rated not free. The constitution has never been implemented. Indefinite national service functions as a tool of control. There is no independent press, and there is no space for political opposition. Afghanistan. Under Taliban rule, Afghanistan has a score of about 8 out of 100 and is considered not free. Women and girls are banned from most education and many forms of work. Former government employees, activists, and journalists face targeted attacks. Libya. Libya scores around 9 out of 100 and is not free. Armed groups control different parts of the country. Political opponents, activists, and journalists are targeted by militias, and there is no unified authority capable of providing effective protection. Now, the most important question: is it dangerous to return? Political persecution is different from many other types of persecution. In most of the countries we discussed, the threat comes directly from the government or from powerful actors linked to it. The state is the persecutor, and that changes everything. Under the Geneva Convention, a refugee is someone who has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. Political opinion is one of the 5 grounds. When the state itself is persecuting you, the state cannot protect you from itself. This means that internal relocation, moving to another city within the same country, often does not work. When the Russian FSB is looking for you, moving from Moscow to Novosibirsk will not save you. When the Iranian IRGC has your name, moving from Tehran to Isfahan changes nothing. The state operates across its entire territory. Many of these governments also practice transnational repression. That means they pursue dissidents even after they have left the country. Russia, China, Iran, and Uzbekistan are among the most active. Freedom House has documented cases of transnational repression originating from at least 38 countries, targeting people in 91 host states. The European Convention on Human Rights provides additional protection. Article 3 prohibits torture and inhuman or degrading treatment. Article 10 protects freedom of expression. If returning a person to their country would expose them to treatment that violates these articles, return is not permitted. Asylum courts look at several things: the laws in the country of origin, how those laws are actually applied in practice, whether the person has been individually targeted, and the broader country evidence, reports from the UN, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Freedom House, and expert witnesses like us. For the countries we discussed today, Russia, Iran, China, Azerbaijan, Nicaragua, Belarus, and others, the country evidence is overwhelming. Political persecution is systematic. State protection is not available. In Belarus, for example, the systematic repression of political opposition continues. Human rights groups estimate that around 1,300 political prisoners remain in detention. Forced confessions appear on state TV, and independent civil society has been effectively destroyed. The expert witness cannot accept or reject the applicant's testimony. That is the court's role. But if the court accepts the testimony and the persecution context is confirmed by country evidence, then, in the expert's opinion, the risk upon return is obvious. For political persecution cases, the risk is especially clear because the persecutor is the state. The state controls the borders, the police, the courts, the prisons. Internal relocation is usually not viable. Transnational repression means the risk can follow you even after you leave. This is why a personal assessment of each individual case is critically important. Every case is different. The specific political activity, level of involvement, and evidence of targeting, all of this matters. If you are from one of these 24 countries and you have fled political persecution, an expert witness report can strengthen your asylum case. Our team based in London prepares personal assessments for courts and tribunals. Details in the link in the description. If you are an immigration lawyer representing a client from any of these countries and you need a country expert witness, you will find our details in the description below. This was an episode of the Human Rights. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.